They ripped open her bag, but what I found inside left us all in tears. I will never forget that moment. The air was thick with shock, hearts pounding like tribal drums. We stood there, frozen, as the frayed fabric of her backpack fell open, spilling its secrets onto the cold pavement. The sound of tearing zippers echoed in the silence. What emerged was not just belongings, it was a world of mystery. A tattered journal, pages bursting with ink-stained stories. A small, crumpled photograph, yellowed with age, revealing faces we had never met but felt an inexplicable connection to. And then, a delicate glass jar filled with tiny handwritten notes, each one folded so tightly, as if hiding something precious. My breath hitched. Curiosity replaced confusion. The crowd around us murmured, eyes wide, whispers rippling through like an electric current. Who was she? Why did this bag hold so much? I took a step closer. The smell of old books and something that resembled lavender brushed against my senses. When the notes caught the sunlight, they sparkled like secrets longing to be shared. Each word in those notes felt alive, urgent, begging to be read. I grasped one between my fingers, feeling the rough paper, a shiver coursing through me. I could hear my heart thudding wildly. Around me, familiar faces watched with wide eyes. My best friend, Sarah, bit her lip, uncertainty and intrigue dancing in her gaze. What if these are her last words? She whispered, the tension heavy. Suddenly, the girl who had owned that bag was not just a stranger, she was a spectre from a story I needed to know. But then, amidst the pieces scattered on the ground, I caught sight of a familiar name written on one of those notes. A name I didn't want to see. A name that sent icy prickles down my spine. My thoughts raced. My pulse pounded louder than ever. What did this mean? In that moment, everything shifted like the world turning on its axis. Who were we really and how were we connected to her? The air felt charged, electric. I knew this was no accident. My chest tightened, a dark thought creeping in. This bag, these notes, they were calling out for answers, for closure. Would we find the truth? Or would we unearth a nightmare? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air around us shivered with a mix of disbelief and dread. I stood there, staring at the familiar name scrawled across the note. It was my brother's name. Beneath that single word lay a wellspring of memories both tender and painful. How could this bag, lost and forgotten, be intertwined with him? With us? Are you okay? Sarah's voice cut through my fog of confusion. I nodded absently, my eyes still fixed on the crumpled note, but my heart felt shattered like glass. The realization that I had somehow stumbled into a part of my brother's past was overwhelming. As a child, I had always looked up to him. Now, the idea that he had left a piece of himself in a stranger's bag consumed me. What does it say? Sarah encouraged, stepping closer as if the note would reveal its secrets if we were just bold enough to pry them open. The air was charged with unspoken fears and hopes. Around us, the crowd began to lean in, drawn by the gravity of the moment. Do you think we should read it? I hesitated. Something deep inside me screamed to keep it hidden, to protect whatever fragments of my brother's life had not been laid bare. Just then, a woman stepped forward from the gathering. She had curly hair that framed her face, and her eyes glistened with understanding. It's important. You might find something you didn't know you were looking for, she said softly, as if she understood our fears and hopes all too well. So, I took a deep breath, heart racing, and unfolded the note slowly. The words on the page slipped into focus, every letter resonating with the echoes of my brother's laughter, his struggles, everything that made him who he was. Sometimes, we don't realize how connected we all are. I write to remember to heal, the note began, each phrase more poignant than the last. He described moments with friends, insecurities he'd never voiced aloud, and a longing that felt like a shadow lingering in the background. The last few lines sent a chill through me. If you ever find this, please know that you were never alone. There are connections in darkness that lead us back to light. As I read, tears stung my eyes. I looked up to find the crowd now appeared to me like a kaleidoscope of human emotion, some faces crumpled with sympathy, others wary and suspicious. They were all participants in this strange tapestry woven with secrets and unknown paths. The woman gestured for me to keep reading, encouraging me to unveil more of his heart, yet I hesitated. My thoughts swirled and churned, each sentence pounding upon my chest. Who was the girl who lost this bag? What did my brother have to do with her? What darkness lurked behind those words? But suddenly, a low murmur surged through the crowd, and gasps broke the heavy air. My heart sank. A dark-hued van had pulled up down the street, its tires crunching on the gravel. I felt the hairs on my neck prickle. We should go, I whispered anxiously to Sarah, but before we could turn away, the van door swung open. Out stepped a tall figure whose silhouette was familiar and not in a comforting way. My breath caught in my throat. It was a man from a time I wished to forget, a connection I had buried deep. My chest tightened further. No, it couldn't be. Leave her alone, I shouted, the words bursting forth before I could stop them. Every heartbeat I felt poured into that one plea, a desperate attempt to guard whatever small flickers of hope I had found in my brother's note. As he paused, I scanning the crowd, my heart raced with the realization that our encounter had merely opened the floodgates to deeper questions, newer fears. The tension hung thick, a knife ready to drop. What was this connection to my brother? Who was this girl, and why did our lives abruptly intertwine in such a chaotic manner? The man smiled, a twisted grin that sent chills down my spine. I believe you have something that belongs to me. And in that moment, standing among strangers in a crackling silence, I knew this was just the beginning of a far darker narrative than any of us could have imagined. The world around me faded, except for the man standing in front of us. His smile was magnetizing yet laced with malice. The crowd had shifted, their expressions oscillating between shock and concern, each glance weighing heavily upon my shoulders. Fear gripped my heart like a vice. The note had opened wounds I did not know existed, and now this man threatened to bury me under the weight of the revelations. Who are you? My voice wavered, an unsteady beacon cutting through the tension. The anger coursing through me was fueled by bewilderment and an estranged hunger for answers. I needed to know why my brother was connected to this shadowed figure and what he meant by something that belongs to me. The man took a step closer, and I felt the air thicken, each breath I took drawing in anxiety. You don't remember me? How charming, he chuckled darkly, his eyes locking on mine with an unnerving intensity. You were just a girl when we met. But your brother, he had a way of making people believe in hope, he said, each word laced with derision. Recognizing the name spouting from his lips sent a shudder through my entire being. This man had been an acquaintance of my brother's, lurking in the fringes of his life like a lingering shadow. I had seen glimpses of his world through my brother's stories, always shrouded in vague warnings of stay away. What had he done to earn such caution? A knot formed in my stomach as conflicting emotions bubbled and churned. I couldn't let him know how his presence rattled me. I forced myself to take a stand. You can't just show up here and demand something without explaining yourself. What do you want? For a fleeting moment, the man's bravado faltered, and his expression morphed into something almost tender, as if he were reminiscing about a past long locked away. What I want is a chance to set the record straight. What does that even mean? Sarah interjected, stepping protectively beside me. I could feel her worry radiating from her, urging me to back away, but my feet remained rooted. He glanced at my brother's note still clutched in my trembling hands. That piece of paper, it was never just about him. It's about all of us. He, too, was searching for redemption. And now, you bear the weight of his decisions. The weight of his words landed hard against my chest, bringing fresh sorrow to the surface. I wanted to find solidity in them, a foothold to help navigate this spiraling labyrinth, but there was none. Your brother was caught in a tangled mess, one that involved more than he ever shared with you, the man continued, a gleam of something akin to regret flickering in his eyes. And just like the darkness you sensed in his words, you're now entangled in this narrative, whether you like it or not. Before I could process what was happening, a voice called faintly from behind us. Is everything all right? From the crowd emerged a young woman, her face a gentle mixture of concern and determination. Her hair flowed like silk as she reached out, placing a hand upon my shoulder. There was warmth in her touch, a flicker of kindness amongst the chaos. There's nothing to worry about, the man replied smoothly, his eyes narrowing. Just a family reunion. Not quite the kind I envisioned, I shot back defiantly. The tension simmered dangerously close to boiling over, and the crowd shifted, their breath synchronized in anticipation. I could hear whispers ripple, questions leaping from mouth to mouth. Who was this man? Why was he here? And what could he possibly want from us? What if I asked you to let me explain? He leveled his gaze, challenging me to take that step closer to the brink of my fear. A voice within whispered caution, though a part of me yearned to learn more about my brother's untold past. We're listening, Sarah said, her resolve reflecting through her unwavering posture. There was strength in her, a reminder that I didn't have to bear this alone. Good, he said, his grin broadening. But be warned, some truths are more painful than you can imagine. A small spark of bravery ignited within me, fueled by our connection. Tell us. Just. Then, as if orchestrated by fate itself, I felt the tremors of something shifting at my feet. The ground beneath me seemed to vibrate, a subtle yet urgent warning. The crowd's murmurs turned to gasps as the air suddenly chilled, whipping around my face. The dark van loomed beyond the circle of light, a harbinger of secrets, memories masked beneath the weight of shadows. Before I could even grasp what was happening, the man turned abruptly, eyes wide with alarm. He shouted something about not being ready as the back door of the van creaked ominously open, and then, from within the darkness of the vehicle, a figure emerged, silhouetted against the fading light. Someone I had not expected, someone whose reappearance shattered the fragile calm of the moment. My heart raced with recognition as the reality of my brother's past lurched forward, ready to engulf us all anew. My heart threatened to escape my chest as I processed the silhouette that had just emerged from the van. The fading light revealed just enough to send ripples of confusion barreling through me, familiar yet distorted. The figure stood like a ghost resurrected, the memory of my brother's laughter echoing in my mind when he'd spoken of them. Maya, came the trembling voice, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. My knees weakened beneath me, threatening to buckle under the weight of memories and emotions that surged forth unbidden. It was her, the woman from the photographs, the one who had held such significance in my brother's life but was ambushed by shadows of the past. I had brushed past those images so many times, trying to reconcile her presence against the stories I knew, but seeing her now brought a bitter sting of disbelief. It felt as if the world had tilted on its axis, scrambling every hard-earned certainty I'd clung to. The crowd held its collective breath, and a foreboding silence cloaked the scene, heavy with expectation. My mind raced as I tried to process what the man had said moments before. Your brother's tangled mess, he had hinted, and now here was a living testament to that. What are you doing here? My voice, wavering though it was, broke through the thick tension as I took a cautious step toward her. I searched her face for any semblance of familiarity, for a trail that could lead me back to the comforting figure of my brother. The kindness and warmth he had shown promised a connection, but the uncertainty was suffocating. Maya, I came to find you, she murmured, her brow creased with worry. Find me? Confusion warred with anger. How could she simply walk back into my life after everything? Why now? After all this time, I had to wait until it was safe, she replied, her voice trembling faintly. There's so much you don't know. I couldn't put you in danger until I had the truth. As I stood there, the ground beneath me seemed to morph with every fleeting glance. The man, still tied to the chaos of my intertwined life with my brother, regarded this unexpected interloper with guarded eyes. Enough with the secrets, he hissed, stepping forward, his anger tangible. The truth is exactly what she can't afford to know right now. What you need is to stay hidden, not face the past. For a fleeting moment, my resolve faltered, the weight of both their words crashing down upon me. I was caught in a tempest, spinning helplessly between their conflicting energies. A part of me wished to find solace in the familiar, but another part recoiled at the chaos this woman's presence incited. Why should I trust you? I asked, the anger in my voice rising like bile. You're the phantom from a past I didn't even know my brother had. You're a reminder of everything lost. I know, she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes, and for the first time, I saw the vulnerability beneath her confident exterior. But I was there, and I can help you understand what he was fighting against. What he sacrificed for you, a sacrifice that would continue to impact your life. Your brother wasn't just a boy with dreams, he had demons, real ones, and they haven't gone away. Her words poured into me like a torrent, mixing with the anger and confusion already raging within. The revelation of a hidden struggle twisted my heart in an unyielding grip. What do you mean? What demons? The man's expression darkened, and I could see fear clawing at the corners of his carefully crafted mask. Maya, listen to me. There are things in this world no one should have to face. Something he unearthed will come for you unless you know how to protect yourself. Just then, a commotion echoed from the crowd behind us. My heart dropped as I saw people parting, eyes widening in horror. Amidst the throng, another figure emerged, cloaked in confusion and terror. A bolt of recognition shot through me. Was Adam, my brother's best friend, the one person who knew the threads of my brother's past. Or Maya. He shouted, desperation heavy in his voice. His footsteps hurried as he rushed toward us. You need to get away from them. Both of them. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Before I could process Adam's warning, I felt the air thicken around us, the electric tingle of impending danger. The man's expression shifted again, the bravado melting into something far more sinister. Adam, stop! I yelled, but the subtle edge of panic in Adam's eyes spoke volumes that my heart did not want to accept. In that fragmented moment, everything seemed to snap into sharp focus. The looming truth that buried itself beneath murmurs of love, loss, and vengeance threatened to erupt in a firestorm of chaos. My brother's past was not merely a haunting memory, it had found its way to my present, a dark shadow ready to consume everything I held dear. As the man took a step closer, a sickening realization sank into his fight wasn't simply for the truth, it was a fight for survival. And the storm raging ahead was only beginning to unfold. The tremors of chaos amplified around me, reverberating through the crowd as if the very earth beneath us was split between allies and foes. I could feel every pulse of my heartbeat sinking with a dread clawing at my throat. Adam's eyes were frantic, darting from me to the man, the woman, and back again. His next words burst forth like a dam about to break. Maya, you don't know who you're dealing with. You have to listen to me. They're not enough. The man thundered, his sharp voice cutting through Adam's panic. I noticed the way the crowd leaned closer, drawn in by the growing tension as if we were actors in a play none of us had rehearsed for. My stomach twisted at the realization that, even among strangers, our fears had forged an unspoken pact. Yet in this maelstrom of uncertainty, a tiny flicker of hope ignited within me, a raw instinct that wanted to stand firm, to fight back against the encroaching darkness. Adam, I need to hear him out, I said, my voice steady despite the tremors shaking my hands. He knew my brother. He might know what happened to Maya. Adam pleaded, desperation etching deep lines into his face. You're dancing on the edge of a knife. Just because someone claims to know him, it doesn't mean they're telling the truth. Enough. The woman interjected, casting an anxious glance toward the growing crowd. This isn't the time or place. Maya, if we stay here, we're putting you in danger. I glanced back at the sea of faces. Some were filled with intrigue, while others bore witness to this unfolding crisis with the weight of somber understanding. I was acutely aware that whatever bond one held with my past was about to collide violently with a future I had not yet imagined. What danger? I asked sharply, but fear threaded my words, sending shivers through my spine. There was a sudden shift in the air, a hint of something sinister creeping in, wrapping around my mind like a coiling serpent. The man looked toward the horizon where shadows marred the last of the daylight, then turned to me with a newfound urgency. I can explain everything, but we have to move now. Trust me, Maya, please. Your brother is not the only one whose life is at stake. Before I could respond, I felt a tug at my sedia, gentle hand brushing against me. It belonged to the woman, her eyes pleading and soft. I know you're scared, but we need each other. We're connected by more than just your brother. There's a history here that binds us, and if we're going to face this together, we have to do it away from prying eyes. Each word was a brick in the wall of uncertainty I was constructing around my heart. I wanted to scream at her, at the tangled web she represented, at the lives shattered by secrets and hidden truths. But a deeper voice in my head urged me to listen, to understand. "Okay," I said finally, drawing a collective breath as the crowd seemed to hold its own. "Let's go." "But I swear, if this is some kind of cruel game, it's not a game, I promise you," she cut in, stepping closer, her voice a soothing balm against the sharpness of my fear. "He'll show you the truth. There's something I have to show you." "Your bag!" Adam shouted, pointing suddenly toward the woman, his eyes wide with a recognition that struck me cold. The woman's face blanched as she realized he was right. Almost instinctively, she tightened her grip around the straps, shifting slightly away from us. But Adam was faster. He lunged, desperation igniting a fury I had never witnessed in him before. As she stumbled back, the bag swung open, and its contents spilled forth, scattering across the ground like lost memories, photographs, old letters, hastily scrawled verses of poetry, and something small wrapped in tattered fabric that shone glistening under the dim streetlights. No. She cried, reaching out, but the already tense atmosphere shattered as the crowd surged forward, drawn not just by curiosity but by an unmistakable air of impending revelation. I bent down, my heart pounding, as I reached for the small object that had caught my eye, unwrapping the fabric to reveal a smooth, gleaming locket kind with a place for photographs inside. An unusual chill swept over me, and in that moment, as I turned it over, I saw the intricate engraving on the back, "Forever my keeper." But before I could process what this could mean, a voice rose from the crowd, one laced with recognition that sent shockwaves through my body. "Maya? That's your mother's locket." A ripple passed through the crowd, and I froze, feeling the ground shift beneath me once more. The faces blurred as I was engulfed by the weight of revelations. Never had I seen Adam so grave, nor the woman look so stricken, and for the first time, I was confronted with the enormity of my brother's legacy, provoked not merely by shadows of betrayal and twisted fate but by unfurling ties I had long thought severed. As confusion clouded my thoughts, a new wave of fear flooded my chest. My mother's past suddenly looming just as threatening as my brother's. The locket dangled between us, a harbinger of secrets waiting to be unfurled, secrets that could unravel everything I had ever known. The man's voice broke through my haze, a low urgency that shook me back to the present. "This is only the beginning, Maya. You need to understand and find your strength, if we're going to survive what's coming." Before I could comprehend his words, the shadows in the distance began to darken, creeping toward us, the specter of hidden dangers igniting a flicker of fear that promised to consume my world once again. And for the first time, the suffocating awareness that time was running out gripped me tighter than ever before. I clutched the locket in trembling fingers, its weight a potent reminder of everything that had brought me to this brink. The crowd murmured among themselves, the tension palpable, a living entity wrapping around us, tightening its grip. Faces I had never seen flickered in and out of focus, their curiosity laced with an urgency that felt dangerously real. My breath quickened as I struggled to anchor myself, the echoes of unexpected truth swirling chaotically in my mind. Is it true? Someone whispered, their voice cutting through the din, their gaze fixed unblinkingly on the locket. "Is that really your mother's?" I nodded mechanically, feeling the knot in my throat constrict. It's mine. But I've never seen it like this." My voice trembled, the past clawing at my chest, weaving into my present like some malevolent spirit refusing to let go. The man stepped forward, his eyes trained on the locket with an intensity that unsettled me. "This is not merely a piece of jewelry, Maya. This represents a fractured lineage, a web of connections reaching far beyond your family." He hesitated, glancing around as if gauging the crowd's reactions. "Your mother had her reasons for hiding the past, but it can no longer stay buried. Why should we trust you?" Adam's voice was taut, standing protectively beside me, grounded yet shaking with barely suppressed rage. "What do you know about her?" "About her secrets, she knew more than you think," the woman chimed in, her voice soft yet ironclad. "This locket was a key, Maya. A key to understanding who you are, who you've always been. Your mother was part of something bigger, a movement, a resistance. They're gathering again, and you're caught in the middle of it." The enormity of her words weighed on me, pulling me deeper into an abyss of confusion. Caught in the middle? Movement? Resistance? I had only come searching for my brother. Now, secrets were piling on top of secrets, burying me in the weight of expectations and knowledge I didn't want but couldn't flee from. My fingers slipped over the cool metal, tracing the engraving as if it might offer me answers. The coolness of the locket contrasted starkly with the heat radiating off my skin, an ever-present reminder that my life was spiraling toward a reckoning I was unprepared for. Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I saw a figure dart behind a tree, an indistinct shadow shifting uneasily, causing my heart to race. "Did anyone else see that?" I asked, my voice cracking. The panic and uncertainty coiled tightly in my gut, setting off alarm bells that begged to be addressed. But before Adam could respond, an echo of laughter broke through the crowd, a dark and mocking sound that sent shivers through my entire being. The man and woman exchanged glances, their resolve dropping like lead. "We need to go," the man urged, his authority firm, as his gaze roamed the dimly lit landscape, scanning for threats among us. Microsecond calculations swept through my mind: leave the safety of the crowd, or stand my ground. I felt Adam's presence beside me, his loyalty anchoring me momentarily in an ocean of uncertainty. "If they're here, we need to stick together," he said, his eyes fiercely protective. "Who are they?" I asked, my heart twisting tighter at the thought of shadows hunting me. "What do they want?" The woman took a step closer, fear flickering in her eyes. "They know about the locket, Maya. They'll stop at nothing to retrieve it or erase any connection you might have with your mother's past. It's more dangerous than you can imagine." The world around us receded, replaced by the deafening drum of my heartbeat. I could hear nothing but the chaos in my mind, the desperation to understand, the fear of what lay ahead. The truth was a gaping maw, and I was teetering toward it. I turned back to the locket, clutching it tightly, a lifeline to link me to the pieces of my past strewn out before me, a fragmentary map of betrayal, love, and loss. "Then we can let them take it," I declared, the fire of determination flickering to life within me. The decision felt momentous despite the weight of doubt gnawing at my resolve. Just as we began to shift hands gripping an intentions, a Ligninga shout rang out over the thrumming crowd, laced with urgency and fear. "Move! They're coming!" The crowd erupted into a frenzied scramble, bodies colliding as confusion descended like a storm. I felt the crushing tide of humanity as chaos enveloped us. Adam grabbed my hand, and we plunged deeper into the throng, propelled forward by adrenaline and sheer instinct. Through the chaos, I glanced back, searching for the woman and man, but their forms were swallowed by the mass. With each frantic step, the shadows I'd sensed earlier seemed to darken, elongating in my vision, a foreboding omen just out of reach. "Stick together!" Adam yelled, but even as we fought our way through the crowd, a gnawing heaviness settled in my gut. I felt the tangle of fear and defiance merge into a singular truth: whatever came next would unravel even more than I had anticipated. And then, as if in slow motion, I saw a figure appear before us, stepping out from the shadows, familiar, haunting. The last remnants of the warm daylight clashed with the encroaching night, flickering oddly around him. It was someone from my childhood, someone I had sworn to forget, and in that moment, my heart plummeted. I opened my mouth to scream, fear crashing over me like a wave, but it was too late. My past had found me, and we were tangled in a dangerous reunion, teetering on the brink of catastrophe. The figure stood before me with a face that had woven in and out of my nightmares: Oliver. In an instant, memories crashed over me like a relentless tide, each flash urging me to retreat, yet my feet felt nailed to the asphalt. Oliver? The name slipped from my lips as a whisper, uncertainty flooding my voice. I hadn't seen him since that summer, the summer when everything fell apart. "Maya," he breathed, his tone heavy with familiarity but laced with something darker. His eyes swept the chaos around us before settling on the locket in my hand, the undeniable link drawing him closer, despite the distance that had grown between us. Before I could ask why he was here, the shadows lurking at the edges of the crowd surged forward. "We need," he began, but was cut off by the frantic cries of people around us. The official-looking men, clad in dark suits, pushed through the swarming mass, their expressions grim and purpose-driven. I felt Adam squeeze my hand tighter, his protective stance wrapping around me like an invisible shield. "What do you want, Oliver?" I demanded, the pathos in my heart battling against the need for answers. "You brought this on yourself. You know this is not the time for games," not games, Maya," he insisted, stepping closer. "There's a lot at stake." His gaze flickered to the locket as if its presence could explain everything, our shared past, the danger woven through each decision. "Enough." Adam's voice broke through the surging emotions, thick with frustration. "We don't have time for this. We need to get out of here." But even as he said it, I felt the weight of Oliver's presence tugging me back, anchoring me into the past I had fought so hard to escape. "I came to warn you," he continued, the urgency in his voice cutting into my skin. "The people looking for you, they're not just after the locket, they're after your mother's secrets, and you're the key." A deafening clang erupted from the back of the crowd, followed by a rush of footsteps. Panic began to cascade like a wave of despair. The throng around us surged, pulled into a vortex of chaos. I wanted to scream for order, for understanding, but fear snatched my voice like a thief in the night. "Don't listen to him, Maya," Adam shouted over the chaos, his protective instincts rattling me to my core. "We don't know if we can trust him, but could I trust anyone?" The locket felt ablaze between my fingers, carrying the weight of all the truths I hadn't yet uncovered. Was Oliver still the boy I had once known, or had he been transformed along with everything else? "Please, just listen." Oliver's voice broke through the tumult, earnest and raw. "I saw what they did to others like us. They'll hunt you down if you don't act first. They're after something only you can provide." His words penetrated the fog of fear, making me pause. What could I possibly provide? The feeling of being thrust into a greater purpose settled over me like a cold sweat. "What do you mean?" I asked, tension creeping up my spine. The mystery unfurling like the locket's intricate design seemed too grotesque to fathom. "You need to remember, Maya," he urged, desperation pushing heavy against the backdrop of chaos. "Your mother's past isn't buried. It's alive, and it's waiting to be unveiled, but you have to face it head-on." Suddenly, someone grasped my shoulder from behind, another dark figure moving in the fringes of the crowd. "They're here," the figure hissed, eyes wild, panic bubbling underneath. "We have to." Before he could finish, a commotion exploded within the crowd, scattering people away in every direction. I feared the man's warning, and beyond it, the desperation of those who wanted whatever secrets lay tangled in the heart of my family history. The flimsy veil protecting me from the storm was unraveling, thread by thread. "Stay close," Adam shouted, his grip unyielding, yet fear gripped my heart. How could we navigate the unknown with our past straining against us, whispering lies and truths all at once? I turned back to Oliver, my heart pounding. "You have to tell me everything now." Before he could respond, a blast of energy surged through the crowd, throwing us apart, bodies slamming against one another as I was ripped away from Adam's grasp. The scene devolved, collapsing into screams and flailing limbs as I found myself thrust backward, heart scrambling to catch up. In that moment, the locket slipped from my fingers, the weight of it tearing away from me as if setting free all the secrets it harbored. The world blurred, but in that fleeting second, I caught a glimpse of the dark figures snatching it from the ground, their intentions clear and malicious. "Maya." Adam's shout pierced the chaos, lost amid the rising panic, and I realized with a lurch that everything I had thought would keep me anchored was now unraveling. The last thing I saw before the world plunged into darkness was Oliver's desperate leap forward, trying to reclaim the locket, the one object that could potentially unlock the truth, and the myriad of consequences surrounding it. And then the shadows engulfed me, pulling me deeper into a darkness that resonated with fear and unanswered questions, teetering on the edge of a revelation that felt dreadfully near yet irrevocably out of reach. I awoke to the muffled sounds of chaos swirling around me, an oppressive darkness pressing against my senses. Flashes of memory danced in the recesses of my mind, the thrashing crowd, the echoes of Adam's voice, Oliver's desperate leap. Confusion washed over me like a cold wave, each movement eliciting fresh bursts of pain that radiated from my temples. As I slowly opened my eyes, I realized I was in a dimly lit room, the air heavy with an acrid smell that made my throat tighten. Panic surged through me, and I bolted upright, only to be met with a sharp pain in my side. Wincing, I took stock of my surroundings. An empty warehouse, the walls lined with rusted metal shelves and crates stacked haphazardly. Heart racing, I reached for my bag, my connection to the world outside, but the bag was gone. "Where am I?" I croaked, my voice a rasp that barely cut through the air. A flicker of movement caught my attention, and I turned to see Oliver, leaning against a wall, watching me with an unsettling gaze. My stomach twisted. "What have you done?" "It's not what I wanted," he replied, a shadow of regret spilling over his features. "I tried to save you from them." "Who are they?" I demanded, rising to my feet despite the protests of my body. "What do they want?" "They're after your mother's research," he said softly, his voice thick with urgency. "The locket was just the beginning. It's more powerful than you realize. If they get their hands on it, everything changes." "How do you know this?" I cried, my frustration mounting. "How could you let this happen?" "I didn't," he shot back, a sudden fierceness igniting in him. "I tried to get to you before they could, but I was too late." In that moment, bitterness clutched tightly at my heart. The man I once knew, the boy who shared secrets and laughter beneath starry skies, had morphed into someone I struggled to comprehend. There was a gulf between us, brimming with missed opportunities and choices unmade. "What about Adam?" I asked, desperation lacing my voice. "Is he here? Is he okay?" "Last I saw, he was fighting them," Oliver replied, gaze flickering to the ground. "I had to choose, Maya. You needed to be safe, and I didn't know if he could protect you both." A crack of guilt twisted deep within me at the thought of Adam. He had always been there for me, his warmth a beacon against the cold uncertainty that had engulfed my life. But search as I might, I couldn't find solace with Oliver's confession. How could I trust him again with everything at stake? Another sound broke the oppressive silence, a distant crash reverberating through the structure. Clenching my fists, I stepped closer. "What can we do?" "We need to find the locket," Oliver said urgently, his eyes narrowing. "You can't let them have it, Maya. It holds the KEY.AS." I met his gaze, a flicker of resolve ignited within me. Despite the turmoil, a part of me remembered the warmth of our shared pastime of laughter over late-night snacks, stolen moments that felt like they could last forever. Those fragments whispered of loyalty amidst the wreckage, urging me onward. "Help me." I made the choice without hesitation, the words tumbling out like an unharbored tide. "We need to find Adam, then we need to." The door at the far end of the warehouse slammed open, light cutting through the dust like a knife. Figures swarmed in, silhouettes of authority and menace. My heart pounded as terror gripped me once more. "Get down!" Oliver shouted, shoving me behind a crate just as they began to fan out, their movements too precise, too practiced. "They're here." Trembling, I pressed my ear against the crate, straining to hear their low voices. "Search the area," one commanded, the menace swimming through every word. "We need to find that girl and the locket. They could be anywhere." Together we crouched in the shadows, the weight of our past settling heavily between us, a tangible reminder of the chasm our choices had forged. But despite the terror that loomed around us, I couldn't shake the feeling that somehow we had to stand against this. "Listen," I whispered, turning to Oliver, my voice barely audible. "If we get out of this, we need to find a way to bring Adam back. We can't abandon him." Oliver nodded, resolve flickering in his eyes. "He'll help you." But as the search intensified, a single thought pierced my heart. What if I lost him? What if I lost both of them? Memories of laughter turned bittersweet, and as fear yanked my breath away, I no longer knew if I could trust my own instincts. Then, in the throes of uncertainty, I heard a loud crash and the sound of footsteps approaching. "This way!" A voice called, clarity amidst the confusion. I turned to Oliver, who met my wide eyes with equal alarm. There was a chance, maybe even a glimmer of hope inside this chaos. Yet the danger tightened its grip, lurking like a shadow that whispered promises of betrayal. In that moment of crisis, a mind-numbing realization swept over me. A secret I had buried deep was clawing its way to the surface. "Maya," Oliver's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. "What is it?" As the footsteps throbbed closer, I stumbled back to the harsh reality. My breath hitched as it dawned on me, I wasn't just a key to my mother's past. I was tied to a fate that would change everything, and the weight of that truth could either shatter me or set me free. I had to make a choice, and that choice would determine who, if anyone, would emerge alive from the tangled ruins of our histories. The footsteps grew louder, reverberating against the dilapidated walls of the warehouse like a drumbeat heralding doom. I felt my heart thrum in tandem, an echo of fear and uncertainty. The air shifted, thick with the scent of oil and metal, clinging to me as I crouched beside Oliver. His body radiated tension, the urge to protect seemingly pulsating through him in waves. "Stay quiet," Oliver whispered, his breath a warm brush against my ear. "We can outsmart them. We just need to be patient." I nodded, forcing myself to breathe evenly despite the dread curling in my stomach. But the weight of the looming danger was nearly unbearable. As the voices grew closer, I glimpsed their silhouettes against the light, authoritative and unforgiving, searching for something they knew was vital. "Keep looking for the locket," one shouted, frustration underlying the command. My thoughts spiraled into a frenzy. If they couldn't find the locket, there was a chance we could escape. But what if they found Adam? I couldn't bear the thought of him being hurt because of our miscalculations. Just then, the sound of something crashing down sent a jolt through me. My fear morphed into concentrated energy, and without thinking, I glanced at Oliver. "We need to move," I hissed. "If they find us, we'll handle it," he interjected softly, though I could hear the tremor that belied his confidence. But resolve surged within me. I thought of Adam, picturing him agile and fierce, the protector he had always been, yet vulnerable against a tide of turmoil. The belief that he was out there, risking everything, sparked something primal deep inside. I had to believe he was still fighting, still trying to reach Yusufan if it felt like I was losing him. The voices grew closer, the shadows advancing like a tide. "They couldn't have gone far," another voice drawled, disdain drenching every syllable. "Search everywhere. If we don't find those two soon." The statement trailed off, and an unspoken threat filled the silence. With a gentle tug, Oliver pulled me closer, wrapping a protective arm around my shoulders. I could feel the steadiness radiating from him, the echo of childhood promises that all would be okay. But the reality was stark. Darkness enveloped our shared history, and I was acutely aware of how fragile our connection had become. There were questions between us, betrayal and forgotten trust that loomed like storm clouds above. As the search team scoured the room, I spotted an opening behind a stack of crates. It seemed impossibly small, but desperation surged. "We can go over there." I nodded toward the gap. "Are you sure?" Oliver asked, urgency threading through his tone. "Now or never," I urged, the clarity of my words finding resonance in the chaos. We both shuffled toward the opening, hearts racing in sync as we slipped through. Just as I crawled to the other side, a voice bellowed, "Did you see that?" A moment of panic seized me, and I froze, my heart pounding ferociously as I stretched my neck to see if they had followed. The smell of iron and rust flooded my senses, mixing with the adrenaline that coursed through my veins. "Come on, Maya," Oliver urged, pulling gently on my arm. "We need to keep moving." We crept through the dilapidated interior, inching along walls lined with peeling paint and forgotten crates. Each creak and groan around us felt amplified, an orchestra of impending danger that made every whisper of sound feel oppressive. Suddenly, a soft, noisy and unmistakable whimper reached my ears. It stopped me dead in my tracks, igniting a panic I couldn't ignore. "Did you hear that?" I asked, emotion curling tight in my throat. Oliver paused, listening intently. "I did. It's coming from over there," he said, pointing toward a narrow aisle wedged between towering stacks of crates. We shared a glance, the weight of shared fear anchoring us. The thought of Adam, vulnerable and alone, fueled my feet forward. Each step held the promise of danger but also a glimmer of hope that we might find him before it was too late. The sounds became clearer now, a muffled groan tinged with pain. It spurred me onward, each heartbeat a plea to find him. I darted past the crates, Oliver closely behind, and when I pushed the final crate aside, the sight that greeted me stole the breath from my lungs. There, in the shadows, lay Adam, his shirt torn, bruises speckled across his skin. His face contorted in pain as he struggled against the ropes binding his wrists. My heart shattered at the sight, a painful reminder of everything that hung in the balance. "Adam!" I gasped, rushing to his side. His eyes widened as they met mine, relief flooding his expression, even as fear lingered like a dark cloud. "Maya?" he rasped, struggling to sit up. "You shouldn't be here. I had to find you," I replied, tears threatening to spill over. "We'll get you out," I promised. Before I could move, the scuffle of feet behind us grew louder, urgency lighting inside me like wildfire. They were coming. We need to hurry. I urged, fumbling with his restraints. Wait, Adam said breathlessly. The Lockethy know where it is. A wave of realization crash-landed over me, my heart plummeting. I remembered the whisper from Oliver, the truth lurking deep within. I wasn't just tied to my mother's past, I was now entangled in the present danger that threatened all we held dear. I glanced back at Oliver, who held my gaze steady. Something unsaid flowed between us, a bond forged in urgent crisis. The locket, Maya, Adam pressed, desperation tightening his voice. They'll come for you both. With a shuddering breath, he continued, you need to trust us. Trust, I echoed, the word hanging precariously in the air. But just as I reached for the knots that bound him, the warehouse door crashed open once again. Voices poured in, commanding and relentless, a storm of fury ready to upend everything. Find them now. Came the voice, accusation thick with urgency. Panic surged through me, no time left. Desperation clawed through my mind, visions of Oliver and Adam disappearing into the dark, each look of understanding and unspoken promise of loyalty. I was caught between loyalty and terror, and there was no time left to decipher my feelings. In a rush of instinct, I felt the locket's chain pressing against my chest, the weight of my fate and theirs twisting tighter. I had to decide. So I chose the truth of my heart, the unfinished journey of all I held dear. My hand dove into my pocket, because every choice now carried a weight that could tilt the scales of life and death. Get ready, I whispered fiercely to Adam and Oliver, fear surging through me as I grasped the locket tightly. What if their loyalty wouldn't save us? What if my secret wasn't just a key to the past, but a harbinger for our future? I took a deep breath, my pulse thrumming like a war drum as the darkness converged, and I prepared to face the storm. The chanting darkness surged forward with a force that felt both overwhelming and inevitable, yet deep inside, I could hear the quiet voice of determination rising. I stood there, heart racing, the locket clutched tightly in my palm, feeling the chiseling of my choices unfold. Within that battered warehouse, I could sense the distance collapsing between the past I wanted to escape and the future I desperately needed to reclaim. As the shadows encroached, I swiveled around to face the figures advancing on us, their eyes flickering like predators surveying their prey. But within that storm of fear lay the flicker of a truth I never thought I'd embrace. I was not alone. Not anymore. Stay back. Adam yelled, his voice taut with urgency. For a moment, it felt like the three of us stood against an entire world, united like the characters from a story whose ending was still unwritten. Time slowed. All I had to do was forge ahead into the unknown. My brother's legacy, his silent call to be brave in the face of swirling darkness. Do you want to save him? My heart whispered, shifting the trajectory of my mind. I couldn't let fear dictate my choices anymore. One of the figures, a man clad in a charcoal suit, stepped forward, eyes locking onto mine. You have something that belongs to us, and you need to release it to leave this place alive, he intoned, his voice deceptively calm. The adrenaline surged through me, igniting a fire that felt alive with purpose. No! I shouted, and before I could process what I was doing, I thrust the locket outward, the motion fueled by instinct and desperation. It's not just an object, it holds our past, our truths. The warehouse filled with a hushed anticipation as the man's expression morphed into something darkly incredulous. The memories of laughter and longing mingled with the weight of pain wrapped within that locket, and I felt the power of my voice rising, my heart thrumming against its confines. With the locket held aloft, a flicker of warmth surged around us, unseen energy wove a fragile cord connecting us to every moment of love, loss, and sacrifice my family had endured. This is not just about saving myself, I called out defiantly. It's about reclaiming everything that was taken from us. My brother, my mother, our happiness. A flood of heat radiated from the locket as if it were responding to my plea. The dark figure faltered, confusion swimming in his eyes. I locked eyes with Adam and Oliver, and the shared determination ignited like kindling, reminding me that together we could unravel the toxic secrets threatening to engulf us. Stand strong, I urged, looking between the two of them. Whatever happens, we will face it together. The chaos surged forward, drawing the men closer, but I felt the locket burning fiercely in my palm as it whispered promises of truth, the truth inexorably linked to who we were. With newfound strength, I stepped forward, heart blazing, ready to unveil the very legacy I had fought to unearth. I am Maya, I declared, voices echoing even against the hiss of their uncertainty. And you have no power over me or my family's past. We are no longer your shadows. In that moment of daring defiance, the darkness recoiled, anger dancing across the man's features. But just as their menace converged, an inner flicker ignited a reminder of all the connections my brother's words had etched in my heart, a network of brave souls beside me. They surged forward, but it was too late. The warm glow of energy emanating from the locket pulsed between us, and suddenly, a tidal wave of memories stretched across the room. The walls themselves seemed to ripple, replaying whispers of vulnerability, laughter shared beneath star-filled skies. Relics from my brother's lost past formed a protective barrier, forming the shapes of both my mother and brother forever intertwined in this moment of reckoning. They are my legacy, I shouted into the chaos. And no one can take that away from me. With every spark of courage ignited, I felt the tide begin to shift. The men faltered, both confusion and vulnerability skittering across their features as they were met with the formidable force of our resolve. But as the energy swelled, a cruel roar from behind reverberated in the shadows, a rival seeking to shatter this moment of truth. Another figure emerged, powerful and menacing, one I had feared in the deepest recesses of my nightmares. The very man who had once held such connection to my brother, but also a deadly darkness, intertwined like a coiling serpent, the man who had inspired fear. The shadows at his command snaked into the light, as if echoing a call of ancient secrets. Yet, even in my heart's deepest chaos, I felt an ember of light rise, a flicker of hope ignited by the unwavering ties forged by love. Together, I whispered urgently, barely above a breath, squeezing Adam and Oliver's hands. We'll face whatever comes next. We are stronger than they ever thought. We moved as one, the three of us bound by everything we had lost along this jagged road, hearts pounding fiercely against the weight of the world. The figure laughed, his voice like a venomous breeze. But no longer would I allow fear to dictate my choices. Let's end this, I whispered, sliding my father's locket over my head, feeling its warmth flowing through me, an anchor to who I was and who I could be, merging the love of family that transcended shadows. As shadows surged toward us, time peeled back into a newfound clarity. I could see through the darkness, not just the haunting shapes of my fears, but the true faces of the people I loved. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I took a step forward, courage blazing. I wouldn't turn back. And then, as the storm of confrontation engulfed us all, I felt the words escape my lips, transcending fear and dread. Love is the greatest power of all, and it will never die. Everything fell silent, the echoes of that moment radiating outward like ripples upon a still lake, forever changing the course of our intertwined stories. I could see their lives flash before my eyes, where hope and healing converged like sunbeams breaking the clouds. Together, we would rise from this chaos, unlocking the past and redefining our future. And in that moment of clarity, I finally understood the heartache, the struggles. They weren't meant to entangle, but to forge a stronger bond. That locket wasn't just a legacy. It was a promise, a new beginning, where our destinies blended and flourished in the light of hope like flowers pushing through the cracks of concrete. With trembling hands, I stepped into the embrace of the light, confident that as long as we chose love over fear, we would reshape our fates not just for ourselves, but for all those yet to come. And that realization, so simple yet profound, marked our hearts as we stepped boldly forward into whatever awaited us. Forever emboldened, facing the dawn with all I held dear, I whispered, let the stories unfold.